right, I will officially call this meeting to order at 7:10 PM on February 26, 2025. Looks like we do have a quorum. I can't remember, I don't think I went through a roll call. I don't think we're gonna need to. Actually, yeah, we should go through a roll call. Clerk will call the roll. Just say here.
Here. Here.
Oh, you're supposed to report, yeah, well, I should also say the reason why I'm actually calling this roll call vote too, just for full disclosure, is that when we have to turn over our notes or our meeting minutes to the city of Malden as part of our agreement. So I think it's probably proper that they know who's who and office, so that's why I'm doing this roll call, so. But anyways, on to you.
Even here, sorry.
Brian here.
Tina, you here.
I.
Lori's here, I'm here, all right, we have a full quorum. All right, I did put in public comment. I don't see any members of the public right now currently, I don't believe, right, nobody's joining us virtually at this time right now.
I'm aware.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item, the approval of the January minutes. Again, I do stress and I do wanna say that now that, you know, again, as part of our agreement with the city of Malden, I do ask everybody, I know that we can all get into a habit of just approving the minutes as is, but I do ask everybody to please just read through them when they come out. And just make sure that everything looks good. I did receive comments that part of our minutes looked like it was just kind of like a free for all, and that's not what that's. Yeah, and that's not. Yeah, but moving forward, if there are members of the public that the chair recognizes as off committee or anybody off committee, or just in general, I just want to make sure that our notes accurately reflect what is being discussed here, so that nobody can come back at us and ever say, hey, you know, you guys haven't discussed this, or what does this mean, or whatever, so I do ask that. And we do take the time to look, include myself. With that being said, I'm on the approval of the January meeting minutes. If anybody wants a quick glance, otherwise I'll entertain any motions at this juncture.
I know we want this meeting to go quick, but I remember Lori's minutes and they were tough, right? Because we were going, like, I remember the meeting too, like, we were going through one document, so the public's fully aware about people joining the board and like what we're agreeing to when we serve on the board was the overview. And Lori's notes were just in detail because we were so specific on line items that maybe she captured some of it and not all of it. But would it be better going forward if whoever is clerk, if it's Lori or someone else, like, are you just supposed to say like reviewing, like, you know, overall, like, I'm just wondering, like, it's easy to say, okay, we need to do a better job, but like, what specifically do we need to do?
So I do think it's really important to clarify that last month's board meeting was a work session.
Okay.
Right? It wasn't a regular board
Right.
meeting. And so those notes and those minutes are gonna look different, but you still have to approve them as a board.
Right, okay.
And so they weren't done wrong or
Right, I'm just
incorrectly.
wondering, like, but.
Those are what work session
Right.
minutes should look like.
Right.
Moving forward for regular session, minutes should be very well structured and
That's
reviewed
right.
carefully.
Okay.
Usually you're not gonna vote on term items in a work session, you're just work.
You're right, exactly, that's all we,
Right.
to bring it forward and, yeah.
And I found those minutes like harder to take.
Yeah, I
Than what we're doing.
Well, and you know, and in past experiences, right, like, I've also seen that sometimes it's a typo. You know, but remember, it's a public document, right,
Right,
so
right.
it's just
Okay,
looking them over, right, just making sure that it's accurate,
I
that's
mean,
all.
I'll make a motion to approve January minutes, I just wanted to know going forward what was the
Don't worry, I'll get all you.
I appreciate it, yeah.
All right, on Eden's motion, is there a second? Second by Brian.
I don't think it look great to me.
Oh, well, cause you looked back at me and I was like, oh, all right. Second by Brian, all those in favor? Aye, all opposed, nobody opposes, any abstentions, there are none. We will now move on to the next, which is the ED report, I'm gonna turn this over to Tina.
I wrote y'all a report, it's long and lengthy and I tried to zhuzh it up with a few photos. I don't know what y'all think.
I think the new facility looks fantastic.
Yeah,
You know, I will say, it's like, looking at the photos, it looks great, but it's like, it looks even better when you're in person in the studio, right? So the photos, not to be offensive, but it's like the photos don't do it justice when it actually looks like in person. But you know, so that's my feedback. But it's great, I love it.
It looks like a professional space now.
Yeah.
Right, it clearly has been over for at least a decade.
Well, there was more in there besides the.
Yeah, no, that's
the
item one, right? No,
Well,
that's
I
item one.
appreciated the, like, I think Ann and James met regarding possible summer programming and.
With myself, yeah.
Right, with yourself and so I appreciated that there was some thought in like age groups and like we need a minimum of X kids and a maximum of X kids and like just a general price point, like I was happy to see that,
So
so.
thank you for bringing that, because I would like to pull that out for discussion.
Okay.
I would just add that like, the more content and that, like, it was a delight to go through this, because I feel like one of my issues starting as a new board member was like. I feel like I'm in a position where the attention is to guide and to provide advice, but I don't have a really great idea of what's going on. I really felt like I had a good idea of what was going on after reading this. Reminded me of some homework assignments that I need to follow up on as well. It was great. So thank you for putting it together, really well written and thorough. Well, pictures are fine too. Yeah, I wouldn't like it.
No, I said I liked it, but I say it just doesn't do it justice when you actually.
It looks here, it looks great.
Yeah, you've been in the space, I highly encourage you as a board member, if you've not been to have the chance to stop by and see the new space, do it, it's. I smile every single day I go into work now, honestly, but I was there. I was there every single day, like sometimes 5:30 AM, you know, through the whole process, so I got to see it from start to finish, and to be honest. A lot of the finishes, a lot of the whole thing, I chose on my own, but you know, so like. It's kind of my stamp on it as well, so.
It also seems like Uma was able to do more than what you thought you were gonna be able to do, and like typically the opposite is true, and typically you have to spend more than you thought to do the same amount of work, and like, that's so rare, so it's great.
Yeah.
Good to get a jump start on the ADA bathrooms, the stairs to the basement.
Yeah.
That's all.
I also appreciate the shout out for the nominating committee meeting twice there. I'm sorry, and I also appreciate the update that like knowing that the management company and there's an issue there that we'll probably.
Yeah, so if you want to talk about that just real quickly, I reached out to Adam and asked him if you might know of anybody who's working on that for us to see if there's anyone locally. I appreciate your help.
We don't have to take a vote on it, right, like. I mean,
No,
that's-
that's condo association stuff, so. But with that said, that means that, you know, all that work I did to put into a management company, now we have to start all over again, so I'm really praying that it just. Transitions easily, so.
As a clarifying, sorry,
Nope.
a clarifying question, what is the name of the bigger landlord?
So that it's run by a board of trustees
Okay.
called the Aero Condo Association.
Yep, got that,
Yeah,
and one of the owner, the owner.
Privatera,
Privilege Care.
Privetria, Privatera.
Got it.
He owns the building next to us too.
Yeah, I pick up there, people.
The only thing I will say, and it's minor, is like I appreciated also the update on the money like side, like, okay, this was the goal and this is what we budgeted and so forth, but I think sometimes they needed to be positive percentages and negative percentages, like. If one was higher going one way, then like, it wasn't consistent, like, it was just a percentage rather than it be like. I forget the example, like, one was like 250, but you might have gotten $300, so it was plus whatever that percent is, but then it could be going the other way where it was. Or under, I don't know, I forget, but I think it was going like,
That's a percentage of the actual though, right?
right, but then it was like totaled at the bottom, and I feel like, but there were no minus and positives, cause it could go either, like the percentage could be a greater or less than, like a negative cost.
So are you talking about this chart?
That chart.
Okay, so I do this on every report that I do, and it really is just sort of to show you where we are at
Okay.
the revenue generation.
Right,
Well, that's it. So
Okay.
right now, as of February 2025, and we've got what, 4 or 5 months left.
right,
We're at 61% of where we set our goals. So that's
Okay.
why I put it that way.
right,
So,
You were looking for if we met our goal for that to be 0%, anything on that to be.
Right,
She's saying-
or if we exceeded our goal, because I think there were some, we exceeded it, so that's a positive, and then if we didn't meet it, it would be negative, right? And then,
Well, anything over 100%.
okay, anything over, okay,
yeah.
and
So
then,
like right now, a positive is we're at 83% of our goal for membership fees, right?
Right.
And we still got 5 months left.
right,
So at the end of June, probably July's report, I'll do an end of year graph
right,
to show you where we are in our goal set. So anything over 100%,
right,
we would exceed our goal.
right. But wasn't the, okay, so anything over 100%, we would exceed the goal, and then anything under 100%, like. Generational from like Comcast and Verizon was below expectation,
Mhm.
right, so that's not getting a negative, but it's below 100%.
Well, and actually, we're right on point
Okay.
with these numbers, because we're at 60% right now in February.
Okay,
So, right,
And it's membership fees, that's really cool. Fair enough.
that and production services now, paid production, so
Yeah,
both of
yeah,
them
yeah,
are
yeah,
taken off quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, they're not where we need to be, but they will, you know, it's a positive trend upward and. Yeah,
I mean, obviously fundraising and sponsorships are where we're really lacking. I mean, we really need to get a percentage point there, because
Right.
that zeros never look good on charts like this.
That's what may I-
there's a mixture tomorrow,
Yeah.
right, so,
but with no fundraising or sponsorship revenue, we're still at 61%.
that's true.
That's true.
Right? So, listen, I'm not sitting here patting myself on the back, because there's still a lot of work to do. But I'm encouraged by that number rather than being discouraged. Right, at least it's not 30%. So. Being
What I
one,
saw missing from that chart was specialty grants, because I know we had a lot of specialty grants that.
I don't count them
Okay.
in this chart, because they're program specific or project specific, and they really don't have any. Impact on our operational. Funds,
They had a huge impact on the renovation of the building,
they did.
right?
I think it would be good to see that, because that gives us a total overview of any kind of money coming in to.
I was told there's some grants for planning, but it's just. You're doing so much, right? Generating all this, and there was additional grants brought in by, I saw the additional grants was 15 grand of grants were brought in,
That was for the feasibility study.
right? So it's specific,
So that was
that's still
reimbursement.
15 grand that we wouldn't have to pay for something else for that.
Right.
Right.
So and that's when I talk about finances and our grants and stuff like that, so that $15,300 we got last month. Is reimbursement towards the 25,000 we spent for feasibility study. So it's not really added income, it's just income we didn't have to spend. So that was the other thing I wanted to point out about the renovation costs. Which is a huge win for me, so I have the Excel spreadsheet and we did our earmark section, so we got $60,000 from Senator Lewis. And I confirmed with the city of Malden that they would be willing to pitch in for some of the capital funds. And so outgoing costs for just our organization was only $8,000 out of that 92,000, and I think that's incredible.
That's great.
I think that's phenomenal.
And you got more done. Anticipated.
Yes, so initially, we were only going to do the drop ceiling repair. But because the goal came in so low, I reached out to Senator Lewis's office and I said, hey. Can I rent more bathrooms in our kitchen? And they're like, absolutely, you can use it for, it's for capital, so you can use it for whatever. And so then I was like, well, we gotta move everything. Hey Ron, how's it going? And so I, it was just juggling hats and coordinating these funding, and everybody was on board, and I was like, great, I'm running with it, and it got done in 3 weeks. Project to start, or on the back,
Please quote for the drop ceiling, I can't remember.
yes,
Good.
it was fantastic, yeah, it was.
And he stuck to.
Yep, yep. Yeah, so. Adam had a suggestion come out and they went through the whole RFP process and they won the bid, through the RFP process, and they were phenomenal, they were great. So,
I don't know how many we walked by from the recording going on right now, it just looks from the street, it looks bad,
Oh, okay.
right?
yeah,
Oh, too bad, I haven't like come.
Well, I tried yesterday, but nothing was going on, because I went to the superintendent's like
Oh.
update, and I went.
So you can see it right from when you're standing in front, right, like obviously through the lobby, you can see it, wow, that's awesome.
So one thing that will hopefully be done before the media mixer is that we are repurposing the front lobby for reception furniture and getting the smaller reception desk. So that area will open up and then we're gonna have a little conference table in the front, so people wanna have meetings there or connect staff meetings, so we'll have activity actually in our lobby. Kind of thing, so I'm hoping to get that done before the meeting next in March, so it's opening up.
Remind me to do the meeting minutes or one of
March 25th. Our wedding anniversary.
Oh,
That's right, happy anniversary,
Thank
spend it with us.
Well, and it's my wife's birthday at the annual meeting, so.
Also,
Let's see, I'm married to last my career here.
she's tough.
Yes. I want to be mindful of Brian's time, but I did want to go into the youth programming workshops series that was brought out on my ED report. Thank you again to Brian for posting the video, we got some great feedback, and then it was a really fantastic thread on the mass access listserv, really timely, asking what other community member or community stations are doing in the area, so they had some great feedback. And so Ann and James and I took that combined feedback and had a conversation about, okay, what would it look like, what's their bandwidth? You know, what's the reality of what we can do this summer and when can we do it? And so the breakdown of what you see here, which would be 2 separate workshop series, one for ages 10 through 13, and one for ages 14 through 17. We would offer 2 rounds of the same workshops, each group starting July 14th. So the first week would be 10 through 13, second week would be 14 through 17, and then a reading for 2 weeks. Workshops would be Monday through Thursday, 9:30 to 1 p.m. And the workshops would be multimedia, offering instructions on a variety of formats of media, including video, podcasting, script writing, etc. The workshops minimum would be 3 to 4, maximum would be 8 to 10. One thing I want to know, you will notice I'm not using the word camp. We cannot use the word camp. If we use the word camp, then it will trigger a bunch of state and federal obligations and restrictions. And so we are using the term workshop because that's what our organization offers is workshops.
That's what happened, well,
Right? So questions to the board in general are the ones that I wrote following. So internally, we're looking at how we process the signups through Eventbrite or our website. More specifically, how much should we charge for each student per week, right? That's the one we might need a little bit more feedback and assistance with. You break it down to $200 a week, it's $50 a day, is that reasonable? Can we charge a little bit more? If we charge a little bit more, what do we need to offer? That kind of stuff. And then we do feel it would be beneficial to have some sort of parental showcase at the end to show the parents. But is it the evening of Thursday pickup? Is it a Friday lunch? Like parents work, so what works best in their world? How does that work and how much of a lift is that for the staff to coordinate all that? And then lastly, are we supposed to beat them? Because if we beat them, then we have to worry about all kinds of allergies and first aid and all of that. So I wanted to bring it up to the board to see if anyone had thoughts or if we had ideas of how we could generate that information for data.
I think, just kind of answering your first question, right, or I'd like to ask you a question. Is it only for Malden, students like, children of Malden, are you opening up to?
I think because it's a paid workshop, we could open it up to anyone.
Okay.
So like, in my report at the very end, I posted a couple photos of some youth and they're from a town right by Saugus, Lynn something.
Linfield?
Field?
Linfield?
Yeah, well,
I was like, huh? Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, Lynn, I was like.
So they're from Linfield, but they would love to attend the workshop, I think, so.
Well, then, so with that being said, right, so in my mind, I think that anytime you open it up to like Eventbrite or Facebook or anything like that, you're opening up basically to the general public, right? So you're opening up to a wider audience, which is fine, which obviously if that's what we're looking for. I remember when we did the drag brunch, I think we posted it, I think it was like only in Boston or something like that, I'd have to talk to
We
Ari.
posted a lot of different places.
But there was, I remember there was like a calendar, right, it was like a calendar of events that were going on around the Boston area itself. And so if we're gonna do this on Eventbrite, I think that we can also, you know, if it's gonna be open to you know, if it's gonna be open up to everybody. Then why not, right, and I think
Sure.
there's a few places, so I think Eventbrite would be the best, cause at least. You know, you can show that you're charging admission right on there as opposed to, where was the other place you said you wanted to post it, like,
Like on the website.
on our website, I mean, I think you can do both, right, I don't think there's anything that would.
I think the website will be a heavy lift.
No, okay. I mean, I know it would only limit us to the city of Malden probably, but. And it might be a conflict of interest too, by using the city's, Joe Levine and why am I blanking on the name?
Oh, Laura Price.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the rec department, that was an idea I had for next year's February break.
right.
One that we're thinking about.
I still think like no matter like if you're, I don't know if they could open it to the public, like I know other towns sometimes do allow rec things to open to the public.
I'm really leaning towards Eventbrite, I think for
Okay,
simplicity
that's fine.
purposes.
Okay.
It just really is.
And I don't feel like nuts is a big, I mean, not to say it's not a big issue, I know, I don't know if Brian's open, but yeah. But my kids go to a lot of camps or workshops or whatever you wanna call them, whether it's theater, and you just don't bring nuts, right? Like they just say, please do not bring nuts, whether there are kids there that have allergies or don't have allergies. Like it's not one meal a day, like lunch or snack, you just, you know. And then you might ask on there, like, do you have any allergies? I felt a lot of camp forums or workshop forums or so forth, just saying like. Yes, we don't have any allergies, or yes, we do, you know, like you just put on there and what are they? And sometimes it's like, for a while for my kids, it was just medication, so you're not usually administering, like it was amoxicillin, so you're
I'm
not.
not an X-ray.
Right, so-
No.
So, you know, it's like, some of them are like, do you have an EpiPen, will you bring it? I mean, that's probably the only thing I would be, but 10, I don't know, like if. But yeah, I guess somebody would need to be able to use the EpiPen would be my only like real reservation.
Yeah, she had to be that certified, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we would be, we'd at least be first to get certified.
Well, there's a med certification, which is different than first aid.
I mean, it's 9:31, I don't have kids.
Yeah, I just worry like some kid brings something in and it's just, you know. You are trusting, you know, and if that one kid.
Well, and part of the program, maybe that's out at the park recording things too, and if a kid gets stung by a bee.
Yeah, whatever.
Right,
Right,
so. We do have to have some certification in place prior to this workshop series, right?
and I don't know, like,
Uh,
I'm sure they have off during the summer, but like a school nurse or something like that, if anyone could be, right?
Any
Yeah.
large scale events can have a certain mortality rate, we just want to.
I don't know, I mean,
It's a terrible joke. Not in my watch.
I got triplets, we've always said we have, you know, we have.
I would have
Some,
immediately.
there's redundancies, we're fine. I would 100% agree from other summer programs, look at the voting program, look at WISE programs. I would actually talk directly with those program providers because they're gonna fill, and when they fill, they don't know where to send people, they can send them over to Uber, right, that'll help fill seats. It's the first year we're doing something like this, you don't know, are you gonna fill enough seats, how many people are gonna sign up, what's it feel like, are you gonna cap it? I don't know, right, I figure the sooner you get the ability to sign up, the better. See what the interest is.
Yeah.
One thing with the Malden rec, I just did a collaborative program with them. And they send out the email to like their entire list, so it gets the advertisement out pretty well for the kids.
Yeah, to be clear, I fully expect to work very closely with Malden Rec Department, more for us specifically, or Joe, either or. And I'm sure they would have no issue in helping us spread the word, that I'm not concerned about, as well as the chamber will definitely help. It's more about what do we charge here, right? Like, I'm not a parent, I don't know if it's affordable, I know parents send their children to multiple workshops, camps a year, so what's affordable and what's gonna get people through our doors?
Things that
right.
we can't be affordable to everyone without.
Right, and that's fine, but we gotta have like a base.
But you offer 200 to 400, so I would just go and halfway and do 300, you know?
What do the comps, right? See what other, I mean, to Brian's point, right? There's gotta be other programs in the city that you can probably kind of look at, right? And just say, well, what's a comparable, right? Like, what's,
Well, and that's the issue is
I'm gonna get out my phone and look at math, I don't know. if it's-
how much time is that gonna take? And we should really be promoting these now, right? So how much more time are we taking on this?
I have 100% want to start promoting, you can make adjustments along the way, just be like, oh, sorry, we had to shift or whatever it is.
what's scholarship now available?
You wanna get the interest as soon as possible,
Yeah.
it's.
And then
We
we
can
went,
get the language out there that says if we don't fill the minimum, then the class will be canceled, and you'll be refunded your.
blah, 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 spend, yeah.
Yeah,
Something always says to me, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, right?
Right.
It's like,
Done.
but I
love that saying.
I do love it, and you know how it is applicable to a lot of things, like, but you know, all joking aside, I think that I agree, like. If we wanna get this up and running, I think we can make amendments, you know. And I think we can also put it as a subject to change, right, I mean, this is not the, you know, the best, last and final offer that we're giving, I think that, you know, this is subject to change. To Tina, to your point, when you say if we don't get enough seats, we will cancel, you know, refund you right back, right? Or, you know, let's say $200 and then we find granting or there's something, you know, there's some program that allows us to offer scholarships or whatever, right, for families. You can always, hey, now available for a scholarship, whatever, right? I think we can amend as we go, but I think the most important thing now is trying to start, what's this gonna look like, right? I mean, before you know it, it's gonna be summer vacation, you know,
yeah,
fairly quickly. I mean, we're gonna set our clocks for next Saturday. That just tells you.
alright, I am comfortable with setting the next 300 and see what we get for.
I think that's
Yeah,
really
For
nice,
interest.
yeah,
Now, can you expand what I didn't quite hear what you said about food, like, so if it's from 9:30 till 1. Do we offer a snack, do we offer a lunch, do we expect parents to take care of that, like,
Not very like, one of the other young people, but have the parents.
because we had talked about, especially with the younger group, making sure that we had plenty of little breaks in between stuff that we're doing, so if we did like a snack break or
I
something.
just have them pack a lunch, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I
So you don't need to.
Okay.
order in, I mean,
No, that's what I
But the thing is, like, what I'd be afraid of too is like, even like, obviously, we're talking about a different time, but it's like. I remember when I was a kid, it was like a bag of chips and like a soda or something like that, now you can't, right, so. Tell them maybe water.
you can't do soda, you can do- well, I don't, if you don't want soda in the room,
Yeah,
you can also say
right.
that. Or, yeah.
Water
Yeah.
only.
I'm just thinking about the kids and if they're
Right.
gonna need food and if we have to accommodate for a lunch break or a snack break, that's what I'm.
I would say you accommodate for
My
the
kids
snack break.
here. They brought their own lunch, but I think when we did supply like. Cheeses, goldfish.
And you can charge for that, like if you forget a snack, we'll charge $1 or $2 for, you know, a bag of goldfish if that's. You know, within our limit.
Yeah.
You know, you can
charge
charge.
like 10 to 3, so they were here during.
Yeah.
Agree with having lots of breaks, like that's no, like they can have an apple, if they bring a lunch and
Yeah.
there's, you know, some grapes or whatever, I mean,
That'd be cool.
that should be really. Up to the parent and like
Yeah.
making sure that's in there, you know.
Sure.
And usually if you're doing 10-year-olds, they can say, geez, mom, like I would really like more snacks, I mean, they're able to like.
Right, so
advocate for
one thing we
themselves.
talked about as a team is when we really sit down and figure out daily what the workshop is, and then we're gonna implement. Like 15-minute snack lunch breaks, 20-minute lunch breaks or something into that time period, so. So my last question on this matter is as a parent of this age group. Like, if we were gonna do a parents showcase. Would you prefer to do it on the last day of the workshop, or would you like a lunch the next day, or?
I feel like that should be.
So you could,
Into a poll.
you could do it,
And ask the parents, like, sorry, not to step,
No,
I'm
it's fine.
sorry, no, I was gonna say, I feel like something like that. I feel like is better asked of the parents, so like when they sign up, maybe you could start polling and just say, hey, by the way, you know, what works best for your schedule? Morning, you know, morning or night or something like that, when Thursday night pickup, or the Friday lunch or something like that.
I can
then you're getting two different.
say I've enjoyed where, so. My youngest has done theater, which isn't exactly the same, but they'll do the performance. They'll do it Thursday at 5, so that way, nobody, like, I don't think even any parent who wants a later night, like, doesn't wanna do it on Friday night. So doing the Thursday at 5, so I can at least maybe get out of work early and come see whatever thing, and then Friday might be, well, you don't even have class Friday, right? So it's just Monday to.
Or even if you did it midweek, right, cause this is the summertime, right?
But you
So-
would need the 3 days to like build up the stuff, right? To
Yeah.
build up whatever you're showing.
I could say it wasn't like the last day of the program, it was just some random night. And they, if you ask Anne about it, she might remember more, but they had a red carpet.
Yeah, that's right. That was later in the school year. It was later, like,
Well,
weeks
summer.
later, yeah.
Yeah,
But I think in the summertime too, and I go back to like when I was campaigning, that usually Thursday through like Sunday was like nearly impossible, especially in the dog days of summer, when you got into like July. It was hard because now people had started to take long weekends, they were getting out of town. So I used to find that trying to get people to do something in the summer was on Wednesday was ideal, because most people were still here. Because like I said, on Thursday, most people are kind of like, I'm taking off, and Friday is like impossible at times to get people.
But there's still gonna for camp Monday through Thursday, then I don't think it's on.
This is great feedback, cause you know, maybe we could look at the Wednesday after the camp, you know, Wednesday night. So we've got like maybe the 14 to 17 year olds in for camp, but we are doing the first parent showcase for the week prior. This is good feedback.
you could do one per week or one for all 4 weeks.
That's another option,
Yeah.
right?
But I would say when we did the red carpet, we got, and the people that came together. You got all the parents came, and you got all the city people and stuff, it was always pretty packed.
You look at what's done in the summer programs for the wine or Camp Dakota and a lot of the other programs, they'll do pictures of the kids and stuff, and they'll send updates over to the parent, the high end ones will send pictures of the kids on a regular, basis. If you're gonna, because parents' time is limited, you don't know if they're gonna be able to show up at a special time, it's always obnoxious when you're a parent trying to show these things, right? On pick up the last day is a good time to do it, because everybody has to be there with the kids, anybody can walk around and see it and stuff. And then you do an online montage of everything, but then anybody can watch anytime, that way you don't have to tie it to this place.
I think that's
And then I would worry about it beyond that, take feedback and then figure it out next year.
Would it be bad to have the Thursday classes shifted into the afternoon so that it ends at 4:30 and then parents arrive at 5 and then showcase?
That's all good for you guys, but.
If
I'm
you're
taking it
scheduling
all
something,
in right now, right?
if you're scheduling something for a set period, you don't want to, like, a special off day,
Yeah,
right? Because they're gonna, oh, I can make all the other days, but not that day.
right,
People are planning programs that are aligned with their schedules.
and it's like they can plan better too at that point, right, like.
Or maybe it's a
That's what
lunch
I'm-
hour on Thursday, like if you did it at lunchtime.
Well, and I'm also
Right,
trying,
and pickup is at 1, so.
You did it noon to 1 or something.
and it's just, and it's also thinking too, like, what does a parent, I mean, ideally, what does a parent do, what line of work are they doing, right, like. Do they have to be in the office all day long, you know, it just, it. And I think to Brian's point, right, I think it's like, we do it, and then based upon the feedback for next year or going forward, and it
Yeah.
helps you get a better idea.
Again, it is, and we are gonna promote it as a beta program, this is something that we're beta testing. And we'll see.
So 250 to 300 a week looks like going rate for summer programs.
Is that for
Or it's not.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
That sounds reasonable.
I mean, even still, like cooking camp still costs $400 and it only goes till
I used to
2:30.
pay about 75 to 100, that was just.
Right. Cost of eggs are going up.
Yeah.
It's about 250 to 300, definitely, I'm just looking online, right,
Right.
chat, 250 to 300.
So my hope is to have a fairly fleshed out. Program for next board meeting.
Okay.
And with based on this feedback.
Who would work the workshops? Is it James and you and whoever?
Sure. James primarily, James has been tasked with being the lead.
I will say, all joking aside, we also talk, have you also thought about query checks too, do we have to be queried by law? Or is that when you start using the word camp,
Workshop.
so it's workshop you do not, what camp you do, right?
And then all the rec program that we did, we were required to have every adult query,
Query.
none of us worked, you know, all the rec volunteers. But anybody over 18 had to be queried.
Everybody should record it for us.
Yeah. But that's just something I'm just,
I wouldn't want to send my kid to a program.
They do that for soccer too, right? Like a soccer coach has to be 40, like,
When I volunteered for soccer, I was 40.
Right.
Every year.
right?
When I was on school committee, I mean, I was on the school committee.
It's divided into age groups.
Just makes
A
sense.
lot of times you get a parent thing, I have a kid in this age group and this age group. And you would ask if they could do the same one, you go, younger or the older one, there's something to think about.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that.
When you have more than one kid, they might be in two different age groups, like one might be 10 and 13, and one might be 14 and 17. So you might have people asking like, how flexible is it that it goes in either the younger one or the older one?
We're gonna stick with the age groups right now, and as a beta test, like,
I do
we'll
feel
be
like
out of that feedback.
those ages are old enough that it's not like I would.
Give it some time, just like transportation.
But at 14 and 17, like,
They
my,
differ.
yeah. And my 14 to 17-year-old isn't gonna wanna hang out with 10-year-olds.
But with that one, it's something that.
All right, anything else on my ED report that anyone has questions on, comments on?
So some things, I loved the strategic plan on tape. That's it, I didn't have anything specific to say about it, I really liked that, it was written and I go back and look at it.
Really, nobody's gonna talk about MAPC, especially you?
There's a lot. It's not that I'm not gonna talk about this, there was a lot, right?
So one thing I noted in my ED report that I do wanna put out there, for public record, is that I gotta get the group's name correctly. The Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, last year they contracted with UMass for grant funding to provide media assistance with the climate action plan that was released. They were so thrilled with our services, they wrote another grant for the heat resistant project that they're gonna do over the next 2 years. And asked for $30,000 for UMass services. So we went from $1,200 in grant funding with one organization to $30,000. And that's pretty incredible. That's really good grant money, and that shows our value
I was just gonna say.
to our community, right? Those services are vital. And so I'm in the process of reviewing the proposal and the ask, and we'll be meeting with them next week to flush out details.
I did want to ask, I know I'm looking at the time, we're starting to get up against this, but I do want to ask. There's a last part of the year that really caught my eye, because it goes into my realm. But that bill that's being filed right now. Do you, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is there any ask of us to reach out to, you know?
So I have Senator Lewis as one of the authors of the bill. I think we're good in that realm.
Still, you haven't, I mean.
You know, I think as many people as you can talk to make them aware, I think that's a bad thing, right? So, the bill has been, it's 6 years in the making. It's gone through multiple committees, it's gone attached to other bills, but it won't die, and that's a good thing, and that's what we want to see. So the bill is actually, long story short, it would actually, charge the streaming companies the same percentage rate that they charge the cable companies, which is 5%, to utilize the poles in our municipality. So basically, think of a franchise fee for us, which would supplement the loss that we've seen due to streaming services.
Right.
Um,
Cutting cable, right?
Yes. So it's an incredible bill. It's being talked about around the country as innovative. Yeah, so at this point, I think, you know, getting more, I think the House could really use more co-signers. But I'm still learning, navigating my way around legislation here in the state, so.
I could reach out to Lewis and ask, because I mean, obviously, there's 3 people in the House that represent Malden, Donato, Tate, and Altrino, and if any of them need some push, maybe we can find out. I think there's some that's like representing different parts of the town,
Yeah.
like on Donato, but a lot of people don't treat that.
I don't treat it so.
What's the state level?
Yes, it's state level bill.
Are other states doing this? You know?
No,
So we asked them first.
Yeah.
Interesting, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
so other states like Maine are doing, again, don't quote me historically, factually. But I believe Maine has a poll bill, so it's by poll and not by percentage rate.
So when you say poll, maybe like the actual.
The actual poll. So, Vermont is doing something similar to what we're trying to accomplish, and I wanna say Virginia did something similar, but I would have to, similar to the poll bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But ever since COVID, communities around the nation are recognizing the importance of public access television and getting information at a local level. So we've actually seen a resurgence in support, in alliances, but not funding, right? So, but our legislators are scrambling to get that funding in place for us, because they do see the value, so.
And there being no other questions or updates from the ED report, we can go right into the finance report.
I think just before I start, I just want to continue to celebrate Felicia's wins in the grant space, because that's the place to be making them for reduced fundraising efforts that are high end or low bottom products. I just think it's the future for everyone, so.
I'm glad we got it. Honestly, I'm glad that she transitioned into that role, you know, so.
She has been a godsend to our organization, so,
Yes,
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So I did send a note on the end of last month, after doing a monthly audit. Didn't see any major issues, and he's already responded, touching base on some items that I raised. Every month I go through it on books. I have no major issues to report. Well, there's nothing surprising I want to dwell on. Of course, revenue is down, we need to make those efforts are ongoing. Cash flows are down about 60 grand versus the beginning of the fiscal year as a result of ongoing expenses and all the things that we're doing. We're waiting for money.
We're
to
waiting,
come in.
yeah.
So there is, I don't want to say yes, everything is great, but things are, it's, light is at the end of the tunnel. When I came in here, it was all new. Now it's.
Hopefully it's not headlights.
Not a man's speech.
It's very rare to have your moment of optimism, so.
So we should celebrate this. I'm sorry, I ruined it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I am heartened by the efforts, especially for area programs and revenue generating activities this summer. And I would encourage, based on what I'm seeing in terms of revenue generating opportunities, facility being renewed, to take advantage of the momentum and focus on those activities that are going to be mostly generating revenues. I think that for example, reaching out to center of sauce is excellent, but that's the great news for you, so it's time so that we can focus on the activities that are going to that those funds or provide services that does. Did anybody have any, I didn't have any super detailed questions or reports to generate this particular meeting, but I actually have to those open. I'm happy to answer questions. I was so excited I have to open. It's really fun.
I guess my question, but I think it's more for Tina or both. I know I did read that in your report too, so we are still waiting on money from the last, is this the last part? I mean, I know it's coming in increments, it seems. Is this the last bit of it that we're supposed to be getting now from them?
Well, I was, I'm sorry, you need to clarify, from whom?
I thought from the city agreement, right? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Last bit, I don't understand.
Meaning like, I know that, we were given X amount of dollars, right? But it seems like it's coming in little by little, right? So.
So, okay, let me clarify.
That's
So,
how I understand.
prior to the start of this fiscal year, which was July 1, 2024. The organization had been invoicing the city of Malden for our operating costs after that. We realized that no longer works as a model for our operating funds, so on July 1, we switched to a pass-through. And so from July 1 to date, the city has been just passing funds that they receive from the cable companies to UMA after processing through. Now, I did clarify today, they are withholding 10% per our grant agreements. And that is to put funding aside for franchise renewals, which is common in almost every municipality. So whatever we receive minus 10%. So at this point, we received just over 70K last week from Comcast. And I was informed by Chuck, from Chuck, yesterday that he's got another, check for 47K, from Verizon. So Verizon has paid their quarterly payments. So the quarter that ended in December, those funds are now being processed through and are hitting our bank account, but we're waiting. So that's from the end of December. We're already in March, and that's how long it takes for the funding to get to us. They have 45 days from the end of the quarter to get it to the city, and then the city has to process it through us. So it takes time. We are also waiting for the $60,000 reimbursement for Senator Lewis's office. So that money should be getting in third week of March. It took 45 days from the date of contract signing, which I signed on the 4th, and it'll be EFT. So by the third week in March, we'll be flush again in our money market account. That money has to get us to the last week of May, when the next round of cable comes. So that's how we operate. It takes about 45 to 50 days from end of calendar quarter for us to receive a fund.
So far as I'm aware, we're now current.
We're not current.
Yeah.
City
We're
does
not
not,
waiting on any residual funds to come in, right? Everything's coming in as soon as the city gets it and processes it, moves over to it now. There's no
minus 10%.
minus.
There's no not retroactive, but there's no.
Yeah, so for this last 70K payout, they did withhold a little under $7,000, saying that they had remitted that to us prior, so we no longer owe that money. And they're just passing it through.
And the franchise renewal is always 10%, like what if they withhold more than is needed, would they ever give the monies back, or how does that work?
They cannot withhold more than 10% for our grant agreement. They have to pass on 90% of the funding for our grant.
Okay,
My question to Ron was, hey, we had a conversation about maybe just passing all this money through, just checking in on where we are with that, and his response was, you want to withhold 10% right now, because Verizon's renewal will be in 2 years, so we have to pay for that, and then 5 years down the road, we gotta do Comcast again. And that's a lengthy process that costs quite a bit of money, and the city doesn't want to pull from the general funds to pay for that.
but what if they find out it comes in under in 2
Then
years from now?
My understanding is that they will release those funds. to
Okay.
us.
That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
I get the idea.
I'm sorry?
Kind of guess for more.
Kind of, yeah.
I think we write that off though.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't
I
even
mean,
make
if it
sense.
comes back, great.
Perfect, yeah, but it's like, yeah.
Is there a chance that it'll be more when we have to pay them?
I'm sorry?
Is there a chance that it would cost more than we have to give them back on?
No, not
Well, I don't know, I mean, 10% would assume that we're overpaying, right, so that way we're not coming under, so, but yeah, that's fine.
And again, this is.
It's like, stop worrying, right?
No, and again, I just want to stress how common this
Okay,
is with
right.
like in all municipalities pretty much do. that.
Right, but I just think about paying taxes in general, like fine, you can overpay, but if you
Right.
overpay, you get your money back, right, like that's. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if that like could happen or. Thank you.
But optimistic funding.
It's great news.
I mean, all I see is revenue potential, right? We've been at a loss and we've stemmed expenses as much as we can. And now it's where we generate revenue. We've got grants are increasing and we have new programs that are coming to shelves to generate revenue without increasing expenses so far as I can tell. It's all staff expenses for the most part. I don't know what's gonna be needed in terms of expenses to fund the actual activities of those programs, but it seems pretty minimal.
Well, again, like I said in my report, we are doing everything based on an ROI and return on investment, right? So we don't introduce a program or a thought without understanding what it's gonna cost in staff time, in utilities, in maintenance, all of that. And if it doesn't cover those costs plus, we don't even look at it.
I would still really, I've expressed this desire before, and I'd like to come back to it maybe after tax season's over. I'd really like to get some people in to talk to the staff about the cultural shift that's been required as a result of downsizing and focus on ROI, which has never been necessary before. I imagine it's gotta be really, I'm not privy to the detailed discussions, but I imagine it's been hard. You don't have to respond to public comment, but I'm just saying, like, I think it would be helpful to have some staff training. And discussions, because it is a major shift for a nonprofit organization to move to a revenue generation mindset and self-sustainability when it's never had to justify itself before. This just has guaranteed money that's coming magically every year, right? So, I say this publicly because if anyone knows anyone that might be an appropriate speaker that would be willing to do a pro bono talk to the staff, I think Tina said he will, right?
I am.
I don't know if it's desired, but that's kind of what I'm looking for, is that something you can choose to, and you can be beneficial.
Something to think about and talk about, so yeah, here's.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, we'll move on, unless there's any other last follow-up thoughts on this. All right, subcommittee updates, I know, yeah, all right, subcommittee updates, there any? What's anybody, any better chair people?
No, just that what I've said to you, and I'll say it publicly about the review, is getting that conflict of interest is very important for getting any kind of grants through INN, so it'd be great if we could move that forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, we had a meeting in January and we talked about moving forward with like time, talent, treasurer and so forth, and I do think we're in a good spot, like moving forward with finding people in certain areas that we need, whether it be legal or HR or so forth, and really outreach more and getting more people interested in serving on subcommittees and so forth. The meeting in February, I did express, which was maybe 2 weeks ago, I can look at the date, a week ago, yeah. I did express like to the subcommittee, like I did reach out to Katie when we were like initially looking for people for our annual meeting, and like I feel like she came under the like time or something like that, but I still feel like I said like outreach to her in terms of joining the board, and she did seem interested, so I do, like, I personally, it's more than not, like, I feel bad, but I feel wrong, like, I treated Adam the same way and reached out, and I was reached out to in a similar manner, like, it wasn't, I didn't submit my resume, I didn't give my qualifications. So I would like to take a vote, like where we stand with Katie Bowridge and like joining the board and so forth, because I did reach out and she did have interest and she has attended a few meetings, including the last January one. She was like on the call, but of course she's not a board member, so she has no vote. But those were basically the 2 meetings, and I'm still interested in, you know, moving forward with, you know, getting like an actual thing of like an outline of what we're looking for and how to outreach in the future. I do feel like there are enough board seats, like I think we have 7 and there's really 11 seats, at least in our current bylaws, but it's not like by putting somebody in currently, we're eliminating the options of adding more of what we might desire in terms of HR or lawyer or so forth, and that anyone who would join would be taking away from that opportunity or that option. And I do think that Katie does bring a lot. In fact, the first meeting, and part of the reason why I do like Katie Bowridge is like the first meeting I attended, it was an offhand comment, but it was something like my politics, and Tina said that she would welcome anybody to the board. And I do feel like while Katie and I are alike in many ways as parents, but we're also very different. So I feel like she kind of aligns with that. Like we don't always agree on everything. And I respect her, but yeah, so.
So is it safe to ask, are you looking currently, so what are you asking us as a board?
I would like to vote, and I don't know if it has to come down to an executive session, so we're not like. So to have a vote for the board, whether to add Katie Bowdridge to the board, or if that has to be done?
Then
You can actually do that in
We can extend it.
executive session.
Would we?
If we're both-
Right, right, I'm trying, I mean, unless there's like really sensitive information that we don't want discussed in public, right?
I wouldn't bring it to the executive.
No, I don't think,
Okay.
I don't think we have.
I didn't know, because I know when I spoke to Lizette, she had mentioned it, 'cause she was part of the subcommittee.
The only time we have,
So-
the only, if we were, if it was like matters of discipline or.
Right.
But
I think as long as we all recognize it's being recorded and so forth.
I'm pretty sure we're fine, if you're looking for us to take a vote tonight.
I am looking for
Okay.
us to take it. So I would make a motion, and I don't, because the bylaws, and I was trying to get into that, like, I know we had these member seats and non-member seats, but everybody should technically be a member, I think. I'm a member, I hope I'm a member, yeah,
This would be an appointed seat, you can't appoint a member.
okay, fair enough, so. So I'm making a motion to. Add Katie, or make a motion to extend an offer to Katie Bowdridge to join the UMA board as an appointed seat.
Is there a second?
Can I second and provide rationales to what I'm seconding?
Yes.
No, we'll, hold on, seconded by Adam, now we can have discussion, so the floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, I just like want to highlight the point that you did, I think it's. Well, let's back up, I think there need to be more voices here and people at the table, this seems kind of sparse, it's always seemed sparse to me. And she was someone who showed up and was not shy about sharing her opinions, and I just think it's like critical to not just have people who agree with everything that was saying. Here, my understanding is that she's lived in Malden for quite a long time, not that that's clearly not a necessity, but it's valuable. Absolutely. I'm surprised it's taken this long. Yeah.
Here's the proper way, that's why.
Process.
We have to be formal, but that's
So-
why.
Yeah, strongly seconded.
Sarah, we have a discussion piece, is there any other further thoughts, opinions, whether in favor or against by anybody on this board?
Okay.
Okay.
No, Katie, but I agree with you that, you know, she's willing to join our board, I think she take advantage of that. So I think that's great.
Anybody else?
Katie? But I'm friendly with this, so I don't know that you guys shouldn't say anything.
What?
It's not a conflict.
It's not a conflict, it's not a conflict, but just,
But I think she has a lot of nonprofit background, but she could explain it just so she has it. And she has a lot of connections with the high school and the rec and different things. And so, some stuff that maybe none of us have already.
I guess like, even if I despised Katie, like if she was, you know, vocal and engaged and, you know. And, you know, another person here giving her opinion, like that's valuable. And I don't just,
for the record.
yeah, for the record.
Well, I've known her for a very long time, and so I mean, I know that, you know, when thinking about what Rob had sent to us a few months back about the time, talent, and treasure, right? I mean, she's talented, she's very well connected in the community. To what Lori was saying, she's got a lot, she has, you know, she's done a lot of work with nonprofits, and I think that her viewpoints, you know, I think it would be good to have her on the board as well too, and I think that, you know, I to your point too, if somebody wants to join, right, I mean, shoot, like, most times if we have to rank people come in here, right, so if somebody wants to serve, and I think, I think she'll make a good addition to this,
So point of clarification from the board, please, one, what term is she filling? Is she doing a new term or is she backfilling somebody else's term?
That's a good question, and I was just thinking that too, this would have to be a backfill of somebody's term. I just can't remember who's off the top of my head. Is
The
it Karen?
oldest,
No, Karen's elected,
the oldest step up, I think, is Mary. Oh,
right, that's right.
so
I was thinking when Mary was elected.
she's
Did
appointed.
you replace Mary, not one Karen?
I'm sorry,
Not one Karen?
No.
Karen's a
Karen's
member
elected.
seat. So it's an appointed seat, so it'd be Mary DeValva or Alex.
Yeah, Alex, I think, was it Mary that stepped up first, or was it Alex?
Ari finished our term, correct?
Ari's already done it, so yeah, she finished it.
Okay. So it would, you wanna go up your oldest, step in. which would be Mary Bell's term.
Yeah.
So we would need to understand where that term is. For the appointment.
If you don't have it right now, then that may be something that, you know,
It should be noted in the minutes that
okay,
that should be
yeah. that should-
addressed.
When did you start? You,
I'm up soon, I'm elected though, I'm not elected, I'm elected.
no, but when did you start as part of the, that you replaced Mary?
I was the interim starting and,
Officer terms don't
yeah, I don't have that.
take
no.
it.
But I didn't officially, the interim role came off sometime in October, but my seat is a member seat, I'm elected into this one.
Can I find it when the computer, when the Wi-Fi is working and add it?
Yeah, I just wanted to put it in the notes to make
Yeah.
sure
But it's
we're
okay if I.
keeping track of what terms are right.
And it's not Jordan's term, I just have that email up right now, I'm trying to go through them.
Terms should be done.
Okay,
Jordan's was turned out.
Is there an official list of everybody in the term somewhere?
Yeah.
the current members, but I didn't think to ask of prior members.
So in our invitation, do we put that in the invitation letter saying this is?
Yes, that's what I asked for clarification. And or the board could vote to invite to an open appointed seat.
I
But
like,
generally don't
I
show a
like,
term.
I like the idea of finishing out.
Terms.
You know, so, yeah, I agree, all right. With that being said. It's probably before us, if there's no other further discussion. We're not gonna do a roll call, because I think that's kind of awkward for people to roll call vote like that, so we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor of appointing Katie Bowridge to fill out when we get the correct information, to fill out the rest of the oldest appointed seat that we have.
So that makes
sense.
sense.
Subject to her acceptance, correct. All those in favor?
Uh,
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, who will reach, is it me who will reach out? I guess I don't want to reach out, yeah, I think it would be, all right, so I will reach out to Katie, I'll make that my notes. I will reach out to Katie and I will follow up with this board, an official communication to let you know that she has either accepted or she's denied it. Lori, when you get that information, can you send that to me so I can properly send that to her? All right. Old business, I'm sorry, unless we have any other subcommittee, I just want to get to a couple of agenda items. Before the 8:30 mark,
I would mention that my seat is, mine, I believe, ends up.
yours is ending soon, right? Alright.
No, I mean, maybe we can get a list of everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But when we get access, yeah, let's send that out, and then we can start. All right. Old business, so following up, I know that we had talked during January's meeting of our board contract and agreement. Some of these items, I'm just gonna say out loud, I feel like some of these items, board contract agreement, the conflict of interest in the bylaws. In the interest of time, I should say, because we do have some pretty important topics that we need to discuss. I can't make any motions officially. I don't think you really need a motion, but I don't think I can even suggest, I have to be careful how I say this. However, tonight I was looking for votes on the conflict of interest, the bylaws, and the board contracts. Has anybody had a chance to read over those, or do you all want a chance to, you guys all want a few days to read over this, and then we can come back?
Per Lizette's email communication, she had asked to table these items.
She did, I didn't even see that, okay,
Yeah.
so she had, she's not here, that she's not here.
I'm just saying she did have a written ask to the board.
I have no preference.
How about this?
The last draft I looked at, I was fine.
Be fine with it? Okay.
And that was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Is there a newer draft from?
But I just, in case anybody want a memory refresh, that's all. The only reason why I'm saying no to Lisette's is because it's a writing, she's not here. That's my, if we were doing an email vote, that would be applicable, but because we're all here, you know.
You're looking for approval on those documents?
Either approval or an extension.
I can't vote.
I don't think, I know, meaning, I'm like, when I say an extension, I mean like. If you do an extension, then I will call a special meeting to call the chair for sometime next week, we can take these items up and vote on them.
And you saw my notes on it before, I'm happy to approve as written.
Okay.
Well,
Board agreement, conflict of interest and bylaws.
conflict of interest has not been run through the law office yet.
So we would, all right, so we can't do it.
That was the directive from last month's meeting, right, was to present it to the law office for feedback.
Actually, I think so.
That's what I read in the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good, it's in there,
Okay.
yeah, all right. So then we'll have to wait on that one, that's if we do it, can we?
I will put it on, is that directive from the board, then, you
Yeah.
want me to run it through the law office? Okay.
So we
But
can-
then can we do bylaws?
Yeah, we could do, yeah, if you, all right, so,
Because we've done bylaws for a few months.
all right, so if we're fine with the bylaws, I guess I was just trying to tell everybody that, look, if you wanna just read over them one more time. And then at some point, we could do, what I could do, if everybody wants time, what I could do is I could, like I said, call a special meeting to the chair, right? We'll do it virtual. Give everybody a chance to read the bylaws, if everybody's good with it, we'll vote it up on that night and be done with it, and then we'll adopt it as is. Or we can just do it now, if everybody's good with that, and then they will be adopted as is, right?
If we're waiting on one, just wait on one.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It's not good.
Because I would also say there were a lot of feedback on the board contract from last month's meeting that I don't know if that's been implemented or not, so.
I thought Lizette was
Yeah,
rewriting that, because I had
Which is probably why she asked for.
for,
the
yeah,
She's asking for an extension, so. Again, I can't make any motions.
That's fine.
I can't make.
Somebody needs,
Sorry, yes,
somebody.
it's, I'm gonna try to show
Motion
you,
to-
I won't motion this. What it is I can't make any motions, but I also can't table the conversation either as the chair. So I'm looking for somebody to take some action, this is what I'm trying to make the ask.
Why can't you motion?
I can do that. What chair?
I motion that.
No, you won't motion. I mean, motion.
Table to the next meeting.
That's what I was looking for. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say it in so many words, okay.
Jeopardy
So
for
the
free.
next week would be next week, or is it gonna be?
So we can take, all right, so we'll table this, subject to my call, and when I say my call, we'll subject this, we're gonna take all three, or contract, conflict of interest and bylaws. If Tina will, do you know when you'll be able to take this to Ron, the conflict of interest?
I'll get it tomorrow, I'll email it tomorrow.
Okay. So, on that notion, I will call, subject, so I reserve the right to call a special meeting, and we'll take all three of them up. And this is subject to when we run it through legal of the conflict of interest report, so if it comes back by Friday, let's say, then I'll call a meeting. That, I think I can do it virtually, I can do it that Monday or Tuesday. So, it would just be to the subject of what they do, but I do reserve the right to call that, we'll call a special meeting. And then we'll just vote these items, one at a time, does that make sense?
Or,
Yes.
second,
To what, to the call of the chair? You don't-
To table it, right?
table.
What's
No.
you
Oh,
say, stable?
So,
No, that's a motion.
okay, just for clarification, the board contract and the bylaws have gone through legal.
Well,
The
come-
bylaws have gone through legal.
The contract is pretty straightforward, it's just saying we're going to, yeah,
Okay,
Can we just want them to have some, I will want to for your feedback from last.
so those items have been tabled. Subcommittee assignments and strategic plan, I actually think that we can just wait till, because in the interest of time, I think we can wait.
so I have one question on that, and I should have said it in my subcommittee meeting, I did create a subcommittee for nominating committee for the 17th of March. I mean, I guess we can cancel it if I'm no longer on that committee, but
No,
I just
no,
wanted
you're
to
fine.
add
No,
that, so
you're fine.
March 17th is the next subcommittee meeting before we're going to nominating, so if anybody wants to attend or is wondering.
Just go ahead.
If you send out a calendar invite to that?
I might not have because we agreed, but I can send out a calendar invite.
Also, the strategic plan, Tina did discuss it, so I think we're okay. The board planner was also in her E.D report, I'm just kind of trying to.
No, it wasn't. Uma board planner was not.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
That was the Lizette thing in the past.
I think we should table
Table that?
Yeah.
Perfect, table that too.
where that thought came to.
We'll table that discussion. Media mixer is as discussed, it will be next month, I don't know if you want
It's
to.
one tomorrow night, isn't it? It's our.
So, and that's the humans of Malden, that's on the agenda as well. So very quickly, tomorrow night is our art salon of the humans of Malden reprise. With a incredible artwork done by the local artist Susan Ecker, and highly encourage you to attend if you can as board members. The ask to the board, which was in my E.D report, is to be available and present on Tuesday, March 25th. I gotta skip my wedding anniversary, you all can be there one night, right?
Yeah.
No, I can't, and we will have a table set up specifically for the board, this is where you can. Network for subcommittee members or board members. It's gonna be an incredible night, Senator Lewis will be there to, shake some hands and take some photos. As well as we've put out a very strong VIP list too, so. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. If you know you wanna work at the table, through the event, let me know. And we will talk next. Oh gosh, is there a board meeting before that? There's a board meeting
There is.
before that.
Yeah,
I think we can talk a little bit more in depth about it next month too.
All right, at this time right now, we've come to the end of our agenda. But I also do want to, we're not going to adjourn, we're actually going to go into an executive session. Purposes of executive session is to discuss the organizational financial health and practices of UMA. Any discussion currently being held in public could be detrimental to any type of strategic strategy that we may be talking about, so I think that this is best. Right now, the best time to discuss any upcoming strategy, whatever that may be, you should be discussing executive session. With that being said, actually, we're gonna go into 2 executive sessions. We're gonna go into executive session number 1. Like I said, what I just stated. The second executive session, also discussing any type of contract proposals coming from the executive director discussed in public comment or in public view. May be detrimental to anything that we may try to do strategy wise, and so the executive session without Tina or the ED being here, we're going into that. With that being said, I will take any motions right now to go into an executive session, both executive sessions.
So motion.
Moved by Brian's, is there a second?
I'll second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Brian.
John.
Ian.
Yes.
Yes.
Tina Giffen.
Tina does not get a vote on this. All right, actually, before I say this, while in the executive session, now that we're in it, there is a good possibility that we will adjourn in executive session, seeing that there may not be a need to come out and take any formal votes to the public. And so we will be adjourning inside of executive session. All right,